Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. We have a filing in the state of California. We're going to get right into it. We're not going to do a roll call this afternoon. I want to thank everybody who has come on in at the beginning of our PATC live show here this Friday, July 22nd. Welcome in everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football, including the breaking news, Ross Dellinger. We're going to go right into it. I will take your questions, your super chats, your phone calls after we go through this article. It was just released 11 minutes ago. Breaking news, the NCAA. College leaders file a landmark agreement in antitrust cases. Here's what was settled and what's next. And about 2 minutes before we came on, I went through some of this and, whoa, there's gonna be a little bit of what you would call possibly an enforcement arm to all of this. Are they actually going to enforce the rules on these schools and players who violate the rules? Let's get right to it. For decades, the NCAA and college sports leaders went to great lengths to both avoid court and congressional intervention. Now, in the wake of a landmark settlement agreement, the courts hold significant oversight over the industry's new model, and only Congress can prevent what some college leaders see athletic employment inevitable. And that's what I believe too. Only Congress can really come in and save the day. The NCAA and power conferences on Friday, today, filed their 100-plus page long-form agreement in the settlement of 3 antitrust lawsuits, House, Hubbard, and Carter, ushering in a new future of athlete revenue sharing, expanding scholarships to full rosters, and creating a historic enforcement system. That is the part of this that is going to be new, or I didn't know what to expect. We're going to get some information right in this article, so buckle up, brace for impact. An arbitration overseen by the courts, an historic enforcement system of arbitration overseen by the courts. The new concepts take effect at the start of the 25-26 academic year, next summer or fall. The plaintiff attorneys, representing thousands of athletes who brought the class action suits over athlete compensation or lack thereof, separately filed documents Friday detailing how they plan to distribute nearly $2.8 billion in back damages to former players over a 10-year period. According to documents sent to Yahoo Sports, 83% of the back pay, $2.3 billion of the $2.8 billion, is expected to go to an estimated 19,000 football and men's basketball players, many of them from the power conferences. That is an average of about $120,000 per player over the 10-year period, or $12,000 a year. The back damages formula could guide how schools distribute revenue going forward. The first back payments are due this coming spring after, presumably, this settlement is approved by presiding judge Claudia Wilkin of the U.S. District Court of Northern California. Friday's filing today with the latest step in a settlement approved process that could stretch attorneys contend into the early portion of next year. The long-form filing from the defendants, the NCAA, and the 5 power leagues includes dozens of pages of legal jargon offset with all the important injunctive relief agreement. A 31-page document detailing the revenue sharing pool and cap, new roster limits for sports, and an enforcement mechanism unlike anything college sports has seen. Holy smokes. While the settlement grants plenty of authority to the NCAA and conferences, right? Authority given to still the NCAA and conferences, as well as protecting their existing and future rules. The court and the plaintiff attorneys, most notably Jeffrey Kessler and Steve Berman, are tasked with overseeing and managing various aspects of the future model, including the operation and enforcement of college sports' new quasi-salary cap. Buckle up, everybody. Buckle up. If you're standing up, you might want to sit down. If you're sitting down, you might want to stand up. A court-appointed special master. A court-appointed special master will settle disputes over compliance and interpretation matters about the revenue sharing model, a role currently occupied by the NCAA office. A neutral arbiter is charged with hearing and ruling on appeals from athletes to schools found to have violated rules connected to the new model. A neutral arbiter is charged with hearing and ruling on appeals from athletes to schools found to have violated rules connected to a new model. A neutral arbiter is going to be charged with hearing and ruling on appeals from athletes to schools found to have violated rules connected to the new model. A role currently held by the NCAA infractions entity, which has been understaffed, which has been inconsistent. A neutral arbiter. The plaintiff attorneys, as well as their class of athletes, new freshman classes, are automatically added to the settlement each year. New freshman classes are automatically added, hold a role in the development of enforcement process of the new salary cap, and are partly responsible for monitoring such over the decade of the agreement. While much of the filing has been previously reported, the document did provide some new information and more specifics around the various concepts, most notably an enforcement arbitration system to police third-party NIL entities such as collectives and the escalating pool of revenues the schools are permitted to share with the athletes. Ladies and gentlemen, that pool of revenue that schools are permitted to share with athletes, that $22 million, whatever number that goes to, the following, there's going to be a lot of transparency over that. There's going to be a lot of transparency over those numbers. And then those third-party NIL entities, there's going to be an enforcement. Those players, yeah, they can make more money. Alabama's going to be spending more than $22 million on the football roster, but how they spend that money in the NIL third party is going to have to be tied to a business. It's going to have to be tied to an NIL value. It just cannot be bags of cash, supposedly. And I'm not picking on Alabama. Alabama, Ohio State, Minnesota, Purdue, Illinois, whatever school you want to talk. I'm just giving an example. The enforcement arbitration system to police, this is all set up quite differently. Let's get more into it. Third party, NIL, and arbitration. One of the biggest looming uncertainties as the part of the settlement agreement, it's its impact on third party booster-backed collectives. Collectives provide millions of dollars to athletes in what many to believe cash incentives disguised as endorsement deals for the use of their name, image, and likeness. Language in the settlement seeks to eliminate or greatly reduce what many college leaders describe as phony NIL payments from boosters, organizations, to athletes. The settlement does this through an assortment of rules and an enforcement mechanism that is protected through the court. Wow. This might have some teeth to it. Or maybe not. I'm going to be very interested to hear your comments, your phone calls. It looks like this enforcement arm might have some teeth to it. A neutral arbiter, a court protected through the court. For instance, examples. Boosters or any third-party entity or business for that matter are expressly prohibited from striking NIL deal with athletes unless they can prove the agreements are genuine with rates that align with the similarly situated individuals with comparable NIL value who are not players at the school, the settlement reads. All third-party NIL deals of $600 value or more must be approved by a newly created clearinghouse that is expected to vet the agreements for the authenticity. Wow. By using fair market value standards. For those deals not approved, the NCAA conferences and or a third-party enforcement entity has authority to deem the athletes ineligible and or to fine schools for violations as they do now. However, unlike those punishments can be appealed to an agreed-upon neutral arbitrator. The arbitration process, according to the settlement, is designed to be more accelerated and neutral procedure than the NCAA's current infraction situation where committees of schools representatives determine matters. The arbitrator must rule within 45 days. The arbitrator must rule within 45 days of the beginning of the arbitration process, but an extension is possible. The arbitrator's ruling is final and binding according to the settlement. During the arbitration, enforcement penalties, for instance, a player ruled ineligible will be stayed until a ruling. Arbitrators have the power to request the production of documents and witness testimony. It's unclear if that entails subpoena power. Lord, we've got to let this marinate. Ladies and gentlemen, am I being naive? Am I being naive to believe that these phony NIL deals are going to be either eliminated or severely reduced? Am I being naive? I probably am. We'll see what happens. I'm so interested to hear what the PATC community has to say about this enforcement part of this settlement. Circumventing the cap. Again, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. Breaking news. Friday afternoon, July 26th. The settlement also seeks to eliminate ways for schools to use third-party NIL agreements to circumvent the annual revenue sharing cap. Holy smokes. For instance, man, this is going to be so transparent. We got a lot to talk about. We have got a lot to talk about. The settlement gives the NCAA and leagues power to adopt rules that prohibit any transactions designed to defeat or circumvent the cap. The cap, the $22 million or whatever number that is, direct payments from the schools to their student athletes. The settlement makes clear that schools' funds used by an outside entity to distribute to athletes will count against the revenue sharing cap. Hold on a second. The settlement makes clear that school funds used by an outside entity to distribute to athletes will count against the revenue sharing cap. Okay, I got it. This is a significant piece of information that seeks to eliminate the possibilities of schools circumventing the cap by funneling institution monies through multimedia rights holders, foundations, collectives, and other agencies for athlete distribution, as some are currently doing. Oh God. While the practice is permitted, the monies distributed are subject to the revenue sharing cap, and NIL deals with athletes must be approved by the clearinghouse. In other words, if I'll just take Minnesota because I don't want to step on anybody's toes in the chat room. I'll use Minnesota. Minnesota, the bad guy. They spent all $22 million from their athletic department in this salary cap, okay? But then the University of Minnesota Athletic Department takes a little bit more and shovels it off through maybe their some in-house multimedia rights or their foundation or a collective. They shovel $2 million more to their Dinky Town's Athletes Collective, and then Dinky Town uses it to their athletes. Okay, they can do that, but that is part of the salary cap. And now you've over the salary cap. There is, however, one way to circumvent the cap. As part of the revenue sharing model, schools can serve as an athlete's marketing agent for third-party NIL deals by entering into an exclusive or non-exclusive endorsement agreements to purchase a player's NIL. This is the transaction that permits schools to share revenue with athletes. But it also does something else. Schools are permitted to procure outside third-party NIL deals for their athletes that do not count against the revenue share cap as long as those deals are proven to be authentic. Such a policy incentivizes schools to find organic endorsement deals for the athletes with brands or businesses. Schools can use a marketing agency to as well do this. So, again, I'll use Minnesota. Minnesota could go with a corporation like Cub Foods, which Cub Foods has donated a lot of money to the University of Minnesota Athletic Department and the university. Minnesota could have their offensive line go to Cub Foods, have the pictures on the wall, put food in bags for the old people, help carry it, whatever. All this stuff, get paid a little bit of money, and that is outside. They're making money, and that doesn't go against the salary cap. That's just an example. For instance, as part of its endorsement agreement with an athlete, a school can distribute revenue to that athlete while also using that athlete's likeness in separate agreements with brands and businesses to generate more money. Player A, for example, receives $100,000 in revenue share from his school, but also receives $50,000 from a third party for an endorsement deal that is approved as authentic. The $50,000 is exempt from the revenue sharing cap. That's a good example right there. Okay, now, again, we'll get to your questions, we'll get to your super chats, we'll get to your comments, we'll get to the phone lines as soon as possible. This is the first article. We're going to have to go through some break-in posts on X to get more information. The revenue share pool. As has been reported for months now, the formula to determine the revenue sharing cap is 22% of an average of a certain power school revenues, as noted in the long-form settlement agreement. Those figures include, most notably, ticket sales, television contracts, and sponsorships. The financial figures that schools must recently reported to the NCAA are used to reach the average, which means the exact cap figure for year one in 25-26 will remain uncertain until the completion of 24 and 25, attorneys told Yahoo Sports. However, administrators are working off an estimate of about $21.5 million as the annual cap starting point. While the 22% will remain the same through the 10-year agreement, the cap money figure will rise based on built-in escalators as well as the scheduled recalculations that are spelled out in the long-form agreement. a visual chart that is available below. So there's going to be an escalator. So that number is going to keep going up, 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 up. We'll skip this part. Revenues are expected to increase as additional cash flows into the departments. In fact, the plaintiffs and their attorneys have two options over the 10-year period to trigger a non-scheduled recalculation of the average, decisions likely made when conferences enter into a new, more lucrative television deals and or begin receiving new college football playoff monies. Wow. Ohio State Buckeyes athletic director Ross Bjork told Yahoo Sports this week that he expects the cap to rise to $24 million as soon as year 2 and to break the $25 million by the time year 4 recalculation happens. Over the course of the 10-year deal, the plaintiff attorneys expect college athletes at major conference schools to receive more than $20 billion in revenue from their schools. That's about $28 million annually per power conference school over the duration of the decade. More key notes from the long-form settlement. Those that are not defendants, schools and conferences in the group of 5, FCS, and non-football playing Division I programs are bound by the roster limits, reporting system, and enforcement mechanism only if they choose to share revenue with athletes. They can opt out of the new model if they decline to share revenue. There will likely be 2 portions of attorney fees, one for the role in the future revenue sharing model and the other for the cut of the back damages. We're going to skip over that. As expected, the settlement features an option to actually terminate the agreement if employment collective bargaining arrives in college sports. The settlement protects NCAA rules around a 4-year athlete eligibility maximum of over 5 years, and number 2, an athlete's requirement to pursue a degree to participate in the revenue sharing. So again, these schools, these universities, the academic eligibility of these student athletes is still required, right? The athletic department is still tied to the university. The first back damage payment is due May 15th, 2025. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Helmer Hennessy. Realignment. How did UNC and Virginia decline Big Ten's approach? I thought schools approached the conference, not the other way around. Also, if Florida State did what they had to do, could the Big Ten take them alone? Not going to be talking much about realignment on this show, but UNC, North Carolina and Virginia, all those ACC schools talked with the Big Ten in 2012, 2013, 2014. The schools called the conference. North Carolina and Big Ten have been having conversations forever. Now, since North Carolina has signed that GORE back in 2000, and the first one, 2012, 2016, was the extended GORE. They have not had first party talks, but before that, they talked all the time. North Carolina and Virginia made it known that they were not interested. And Maryland made it known they were interested. And this was all before the grant of rights. That was all before the grant of rights. All that was when ACC, they had an exit fee of $52 million. So it didn't really even, none of that even played a part in it. Thank you. What Florida State wants to do, if they want to get into the Big Ten and the SEC, Florida State wants the ACC to implode as much as possible. If Florida State and Clemson are out there alone as free agents, if they're out there alone because they're willing to sign a big settlement check, and the ACC did that so they can keep the rest of the schools intact, if that's the scenario that happens, like a growing number of people believe that might be the scenario that actually happens, like the Florida State money perch, it's going to be very difficult for Florida State to get into the Big Ten in that scenario, because the Big Ten is looking at something else. So is the SEC. Florida State wants as the ACC to explode, implode, deteriorate as much as possible. If it's just Florida State and Clemson getting out, then it might be the Big 12. And the Big 12 thinks that could happen. Florida State thinks that could happen. The money perch think it could happen. A lot of chatter behind the curtain. But Florida State's going to keep battling. They're going to try to destroy, try to have a Congo line follow them out of the ACC. But we're not talking about that really today. We've got a lot to get to here. Okay. Hold on. Looking for some Kill ball, that $22 million is a joke. If a school is paying a female softball pitcher $1 million, $22 million isn't going to cut it. I don't know. Some estimates are that, what is it? 75% of the revenue is going to go to football players of that $22 million. 15% of it's going to go to basketball, and then 10% is going to go to the other. That 10% is what? $2 million? 2.2 million? And if a school wants to give $1 million to a player in softball to elevate their whole softball program, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be out of the norm, but it could happen. It could happen. Schools may actually make money on the NIL rights of their players. Again, a player could opt in to having the school own their NIL rights, their athletic department to own the NIL rights. And then they're going to get paid some money in according to the salary cap, right? And then they might be able to make a little bit more money depending on the deals that school can have with businesses. But then you're going to have this enforcement arm looking over to make sure it's all legit. I'm very interested in the enforcement part of this. Very interested in the enforcement part of this. Stephen McNeely, I seriously doubt any new enforcement effort will be any more effective than the previous efforts. There will be plenty of cheaters. I think a lot of people are going to agree with you, Stephen McNeely. But I'm wondering, this is not going to be run by the NCAA. There's going to be an arbiter. It's going to happen within 45 days. This is going to be court-driven. This is part of the settlement. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Clay Tri says the courts are very good at policing these things. I don't know how successful it's going to be. It's going to be different. I mean, it's going to be, the mechanism's going to be different. I know I did not have any of this information, but now we have it. Now we have the enforcement arm of this. And the salary cap, the money that's going from the schools to the students, they're going to be looking this. I don't know if I hope. I don't know if it's going to be as transparent as we all get to see the Arkansas Razorback money that's being spent on their football roster when it comes to direct payments, right? Of the $22 million, are we going to be able to see that Arkansas spent $15.24 million on the football roster? And we're going to see how many everybody made? Or is it just going to be completely transparent to the court, to this mechanism, to this enforcement arm of this? It's got to be at least transparent to them. Is it going to be transparent to us? That is what I'm fascinated about. I don't know. I mean, at some point, okay, let's open up the phone lines. Let it rip. Let me know what you think. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Now this is interesting. Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports, it's very likely we're going to see non-revenue sports get massacred, said Jason Belzer, president of the Student Athlete NIL. Title IX is going to be a very big battle. How are you going to stop it? It's going to be tough. Title IX implications could become a school-by-school issue settled in the courts, not one decided with the conference-wide resolution. Yikes. So that Title IX is still completely blurred. There is no clarification on that. So that's about that with that information. Not much new there. Again, the phone lines are open. Give me a call, 763-260-1333. I'm seeing other reports, trying to keep up, trying to give out more different information. A special master will resolve disputes over compliance and interpretation of settlement rules. A special master.
Call from
Mr. Hawkeye, the floor is yours.
Well, here we are, Greg.
Yes, sir.
Here we are.
Yes.
I found one thing interesting. I mean, there's a lot of good detail in this, right? A lot of pretty good detail. Probably of those details, the most interesting part you touched upon with my comment there. These schools can actually purchase the students' NIL rights.
Yep.
Now, if I'm the schools and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking to myself, well, you know, they're going to get a cut of this, but you might actually be able to make more from those rights than what you're even paying for them. And paying out the student more than what, like, they might have made otherwise. Because we're seeing a lot of, I don't want to say other collectives, but we're seeing a lot of these NIL deals that are bad, that don't come through. And so there's probably a big trust issue. But if this stuff is going through the athletic department,
Yep.
I think the trust department value is going to go way up.
Yes.
I think people who would put in money are going to feel more comfortable about it.
Yeah.
And so this is the one thing I'm watching for. Like, this might actually turn into a money maker for both parties.
Yeah.
Both student athlete and the athletic department. So what they might be looking at the situation with all this money going out, and that's what everyone's seeing right now, but they might be planning in the background saying, this may not be as big of a deal as we think because of how much we can possibly make off of those NL rights. And not that you're selling this individual and that individual, but now you can sell the whole team as a whole. Now you can, I guess maybe I don't have details to share for it, but you can do NIL deals for the team as a whole. And there might be a whole lot more money in that.
I got two questions for you.
Yeah.
One, now Pete Knackles from On3, I'm just going to show that. I do have two questions for you. Just hang on here. Pete Knackles, which I don't have the answer for either one. I'm just wondering what your thoughts, or you may have an answer for him. Pete Knackles says NIL collectives are going to hate this. According to the settlement, all third-party NIL deals of $600 and more must be approved by a clearinghouse that will vet the contracts. If not approved, a new third-party arbiter could deem athletes ineligible or a school be fined. So, like you're saying, this could, my first question, this could really diminish the outside collectives, right? Their impact, their
I think,
right?
Yeah. They'll exist, but they're so much smaller.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, they're going to exist, but they'll be so much smaller. And as some people are pointing out, now we understand exactly why EA Sports was only paying out $600, or maybe it was $500 plus the game.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I think it was $500 plus the game. They're trying to keep that number below $600.
Yes, sir.
Because they're going to continue to do that going forward.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So they were made aware of this by.
Now, here's my other question. And I have no idea what the answer is. I've been hoping and praying for something like this. I don't know if we're going down this path. All right. Immaculate. Immaculate is being recruited by the Gophers and by the Hawkeyes. Okay? You are a punter.
Oh, well, then I know where I'm going.
Gophers make you an offer. Iowa makes you an offer. Okay? I shouldn't have used the Gophers. We haven't had a punter. Anyways, I should not have used the Gophers in this example. That's bad on my part.
That's all right, but we all know where you go to punt to win. But anyways,
well,
I digress.
We all know where we go when we average 25 yards a punt. Anyways, God, I'm bitter. So you're being recruited, and the Gophers may offer you a better deal, but you're saying I'm not going to that. I'm not going to that place that never develops a punter. I'm going to Iowa. So now you're sitting with Iowa, and they offer. They say, look, you're a punter. We're not gonna give you that much money. I mean, come on, you're a punter. We'll give you. I'm just gonna use the number 50,000. I have no idea, but we're just gonna use 50,000. Immaculate. Iowa is offering you $50,000 a year direct payment that goes right to the salary cap, and they're offering to buy your NIL rights, just like they're doing with 99 or 100% of their football players. And they strike a deal with you, and they say, well, we don't know how much we're going to get from this NIL deal with you, but we're going to get a little bit of money. You're going to get a little bit of money. And that does not count against the cap. Okay? Immaculate, you say yes. You say yes. And let's say, so I got a two-part question. First part, can that be like a 3-year contract between you and Iowa's NIL, Iowa's athletic department? And if it can be more than a 1-year contract that you're signing, does that mean if you, Immaculate, want to transfer in that second year, that you don't have the ability to go in that portal unless, or you do, but Iowa, someone's going to have to buy your NIL rights, right, from Iowa. Mm-hmm. How does all that work? That's like a 16-part question. You understand where I'm going with that. But I haven't seen any of that. What do you think how that all plays out?
I don't know if I can really answer all of that at this point.
Yeah.
I would assume that, one, there's going to be there's not going to be a brand new industry, but the industry of sports agents is now reaching into college sports. It already pretty much was, but now with these deals, very simple between the athletic departments and players, I think it's going to be much more kind of simplified. And the first thing that they should do is they should get themselves an agent before you sign over that, because there will be money being made involved. And I would hope that while there is a set amount that I'm getting paid, if the amount that they're making off my NL rights ends up being, to a certain degree, then there also needs to be like a percentage that I continue to get. Like, let's say it's 50,000 and in their first, whatever, I don't know, 250,000 worth of sales. That's what it is. But then anything beyond that, I get 25% or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's what I would want to push for. Is something that it's not just a flat amount so they can then just go and sell the crap out of that. And as other players who might have that kind of deal, I wouldn't want any other player to have just a flat cap, because now I'm going to think they're going to try and sell that guy more than me, because then they don't have to continue to pay him once they, So there's going to have to be some standards set, and we'll probably get more details on that from, these arbiters and everything that they're setting up. Probably too early to know those details.
I got another question for you.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the answer is. But what do you think? Are we going to know the roster management of the Iowa Hawkeyes football team for 2025 and when it comes to direct payments to their players? Are you and I going to be able to click on a website and know how much your backup quarterback is getting in direct payments in accordance to the salary cap. I'm not talking about the NIL extra money deal. I'm talking about, this is how much you're getting and this goes against the cap. Are we, the public, going to know?
A good question. And initially we might, because FOIA requests and everything and the public ones. Now, if you go to a private school, that might not be the case. They're not going to be forced to share as much information. But that's where we might see some congressional action come down. And this might be something that really gets them moving, is to actually protect some of the information for these kids. So that way, even if they're going to a public school, they still kind of are protected.
Yep.
Like, now that you bring that up, thinking about it, that's an advantage to private schools, is that whatever this dealing is between us, it's not going to become public knowledge like it is if you're working with a public school.
I got another question for you. I'm sorry.
All right.
All I got is questions. I have no answers. This is breaking news. We're going to get more information, but I know you're real good at, getting through this stuff quickly. And now, here's another thing. This cap is going to always go up. It's an escalator, and then there's some other variables are thrown into that, right? The average, when you get the new media deals, the average, the salary cap's going to keep going up. But it's determined on the average of what these athletic departments make, excluding some categories. The average of all the power conference schools. So, logically, Immaculate, if this continues, if this goes all the way to the 10th year of this settlement, of this situation, right? If there is no collective bargaining, if there's no employment, if this continues to go on, and if it continues to go on after that, because it's an average, that salary cap is an average. The schools that are not, how do I say it? The schools that are not in the Power 2, maybe not all of them, but many of them are going to get squeezed more and more and more, right? Because it's the average of all the schools that determines the salary cap. But if the top half keep making more and more, if the gap keeps growing, that average that determines the cap is going to get more and more difficult to reach for the bottom 30-40% of athletic departments that are creating revenue in the Power Conference. Is that logical, what I'm saying?
Yes, but at the same time, looking at this from the perspective of the top end, the longer you can keep the bottom end going, the longer that average is kept down. And so the better you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But if you're pushing it to where you're killing off your bottom end continuously, and they're cutting out whatever, that means the average is going up, and that's actually cutting into your bottom line. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're right, but at the same time, if you're at the top end, it doesn't actually suit you to knock everybody off, because that just means it's going to bring the average up, and you're just cutting into your bottom line. So it's cuts both ways on that.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I got for now. I'm going to probably have 5 more in 5 minutes from now, but I appreciate the call, Immaculate.
I got one thing, if I may.
Yep.
I noticed in this that he was very, very, very short on detail in terms of governance. And I went to, there's a settlement announcement from the NCAA itself. I sent you that as well. And in that, they refer to these conferences as the Autonomy 5 conferences. They're not using the power conferences terminology. They repeatedly use the Autonomy 5 terminology. And so I was kind of curious as to why Dellinger, I was like, why is he not giving any details about this when on that very same page for the article that you went through, he has a video that pops up on it where he's on a podcast with two other guys, and he straight up talks about how Division One, the 5 power conferences, are basically going to be on their own and be able to set whatever rules that they want, which is the autonomous conferences setup. So
yeah.
I'm kind of watching this going, is he being told not to talk much about that right now? Is that kind of like a thing that they consider not to be like, we don't want to talk too much? Because he really does not go into it at all in this.
No, not in that first article. Nope.
But he has a podcast video where he completely outlines, like, they're going to get to do whatever they want. And I was been watching this whole thing just to find out and make sure that that's the truth. Like, that's what's going to happen. Because when that happens, that's when we go full bore. But I just found that interesting that in this initial kind of press release from him, which he was prepared for, Kessler and whatever other sources he has gave him information in advance so that he could put this out immediately. But it did not have information about that governance, so I found that very, very interesting. And if you go through that settlement page that I sent you from the NCAA, it's kind of a more succinct look at this. It talks about how they can buy the rights from the students and how that would apply towards the cap. I just found it to be a more direct read, so that might help you out a little bit.
Okay. I'll take a look at
That's
it.
all I had. I know I've been
sir.
talking with folks like, watch this for the governance, and they did not talk about it at all. So we'll have to keep watching for that.
You got it. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Helmer Hennison didn't catch the beginning. Is there any real cap? Players can still make deals on their own, correct? Well, you might want to catch the beginning of the this live show, Helmer. We went through the article. Ross Dellinger. Hold on.
Call from
Rick.
Rick, can you hold on for a moment, please?
We sure can.
Appreciate it. So yeah, Helmer, you might want to check out the beginning of the live show. There is a real cap. It's approximately going to be $21.5 million. That probably will change for the 2025 season. Players can make money on their own on an outside collective, but it's got to go through a clearinghouse. Any deal you make, and it's got to be legit. And if it ain't a legit deal, if you're not bringing market value, if you're just getting a bag of cash, and it's not going to clear the clearinghouse, arbitrate is going to rule against you. You could become ineligible, so you got to be careful. You can make a deal with an NIL if you sell your NIL to the school, and then the school's going to work with businesses, and you might get some more extra money, and that's probably going to be safer for you as a student. So you can make money outside of the direct payment that goes against the $22 million cap. But there's a real cap. You can still make deals on your own, but I got a feeling that a lot of these student athletes are going to have the school make the NIL deal for them. They're going to sell their NIL rights to the school. Hopefully that answers the question, Helmer Hennison. Thank you so much for your generosity once again. Ryan Willie, is the cap just for football, or does it include basketball? It's your whole athletic department. $22 million for the whole kit and caboodle, the whole thing. That cap is going to rise. It's going to be up to your athletic department on how you're going to spend that money. Again, there's going to be outside collectives. They're going to be somewhat impactful. But man, they gotta shoot it straight according to what we've said, what's been reported today. This is going to be controlled by the courts. There's going to be a special master arbitrator that's going to go through these deals. They got to go through a clearinghouse. And if you don't do it right, that student athlete's going to get and found ineligible to play, your school's going to get fined, and or your school's going to find your collective. That collective's going to probably dissolve. So maybe, supposedly, could be, maybe some of this crazy stuff might disappear. And Preston from Greensboro, thank you so much, Ryan Willie, for your super chat. Preston from Greensboro, every program is going to need a great general manager. I absolutely agree. Rick, thank you for the patience. The floor is yours.
Well, Greg, I just wanted to let you know that I'm also Immaculate's agent.
Got
so
it.
I can answer all those questions you've got regarding obtaining my clients' punting services.
Yeah, the punting services. You got it. Okay, what are we doing here? $50,000.
So $50K to punt for your Golden Gophers can be done for 1 year, and he'll be a lock. But if you want him for 2 years, you and PJ are going to have to pony up $120,000 or $60K a year for 2 years. Or if you want him for 3 years, you and PJ are going to need $210,000, $70,000 a year for 3 years. Now, which of those three options do you want for the nation's best punter?
Well, I might be interested in doing the 3-year deal, but I got to know what the rules are. Like, I got to know if I got Immaculate for 3 years, that I really got him. That he can't be just saying, "Hey, PJ, the fat guy from Minnesota, I can't. I'm gonna go in the portal." Well, if I've got you for 3 years, Immaculate, I've got you for 3 years. And the only way that you're going to go to the portal and go to another team, if we get some money back, if somebody buys your NIL rights back from us, I got to know if the rules are that my roster management is somewhat protected by this 3-year contract, that you just can't walk out. That I'm willing to do the 3 years. I'm willing to give $70,000 a year.
That's the deal. And you will be able to recover your money in the event he checks out early. He'll be obligated under the contract to pay back that money that you're losing out on. He's not going to get it. So there'll be a penalty for that breach of contract.
Okay, then I'm in.
Now,
I'm in.
With regard to so what happens is you're just going to have to pay more money to get that 3-year contract. Yes. You do the 2 years and you do the 1 year.
Yes.
Now, with regard to the nil, you want some of his nil. Is that correct?
What was that?
You want to make a nil NIL deal with him, right?
Yeah.
In addition? Oh, well, that's totally separate.
Yes.
And depending upon what you have to offer, we're going to consider it.
Yes.
But we've got many other options available to us.
Yes. There definitely is going to be at least a 2-part negotiations to this. Your salary cap money and your NIL. We own your NIL, and what can we do for you for the NIL? That's not considered part of the salary cap. Absolutely. Yep.
Here's what we've got for you. Because you've done us so good, we're willing to offer you 10% of Immaculate's nil if the price is right. And that 10% will have him rowing the boat for the Golden Gophers anytime you want, anywhere.
Beautiful.
But only rowing the boat, nothing else. He's not going to be doing other side stuff. He's not going to be doing other commercials for other things. No maroon and gold stuff. Just rowing the boat.
Sounds good.
You interested?
Yeah, we're interested, definitely. We might
Okay,
have a
so now
decent
it's just-
punter for a change.
Now it's just a matter of reaching the right monetary agreement.
Yep. Boy, I'm going to need a general manager because over a punter, I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted over these negotiations. We're going to need a general manager here at Minnesota.
Not only do you need a general manager, every athlete in college football is going to need an attorney like Rick.
Or an agent. Yeah, yeah.
An agent like Rick.
Yeah.
Who's looking out for his client's best interest for a nominal fee.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, that's all I got for you.
Beautiful.
You come up with any more questions, I'll come up with answers.
You got it. Beautiful call, Rick. Holy smokes. Helmer Hennessy, do you see a leveling effect, elimination of sports? Well, unfortunately, I would. We're probably going to see some elimination of sports. A leveling effect, I would have said no. Today, I don't know. I mean, boy, this enforcement of this NIL, they got a clearinghouse. There's going to be a neutral arbiter. That's going to happen within 45 days. It doesn't matter how big your collective is, how big of a monster it is, how many. They have to get your student athletes to provide market value to whatever they're doing. You're just not going to be able to give a Lamborghini and a $250,000 bag of cash. Or maybe you are, but maybe, but we don't know. We don't know how this, what do they call it? Special master. How they're going to be looking at some of these NIL deals. It said they're going to be judged like you're not a student athlete, like you're a regular student, like.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, can you hold on for a second?
Go ahead, Greg.
I appreciate it. So, again, your programs that have the big collectives, all this money, they're going to have the advantage. They're always going to have the advantage. But they're going to have the advantage. But you're talking about a leveling effect. You're not saying complete leveling. You're saying a little bit off the top, right? It depends on the enforcement of this. And I was not expecting anything like this. Like, there actually may be some enforcement of those outside collectives just giving bags of cash. There may be teeth in it. Now, I don't hold back and call me naive because obviously maybe it doesn't work. We all understand that. But this is a little bit more, boy, oh boy. I don't know. And if there is some enforcement, quick enforcement, then yeah, those outside collectives are going to lose a little bit of their power, and the inside collectives are going to be gaining more power. The school-owned collective, like the school having your name, image, and likeness, that might be the real power. And then what type of deals that they can make. Hey, selfishly, as a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan who's been suffering for 56 years, I'm going to be suffering until I meet my Heavenly Father, no question about it. I'm looking at Minnesota and I'm like, do you know how many articles have been written locally in Minnesota saying that the Fortune 500 companies in the state, and we got more than anybody does in Big Ten country, that they're all weary of going into these deals because of the legalities and all. They have stayed away. Well, are they gonna make deals with the University of Minnesota now? Are we gonna be able to send our student athletes to do this Fortune 500, that Fortune? Is this going to be advantage to my Gophers? Probably not. Probably not, because good things don't happen in Minnesota. We are Loserville City, and I'm the mayor. But that's what I'm thinking about in my Golden Gopher brain. Could a University of Minnesota take advantage because they've had all these Fortune 500s, companies that are all over the state? I don't know. But they have you noticed that basically nationwide, except for FedEx and a couple other examples, nationwide, these corporations have not wanted to touch this yet because it's, they don't want to be giving out bags. They want this to be legit. Are they going to get more involved like FedEx is with Memphis? Ryan Thomas, thank you so much for your patience. The floor is yours.
Greg, I think this means your worst nightmare is about to come true.
Oh, God. Now what?
What I think this means, I think this means the great cheesification of America and the cheese conspiracy is going to be on steroids because the Wisconsin Dairy Association is going to need all that cash to pay to the Wisconsin Badger Collective and its NIL, and you're going to be going to the grocery store and seeing Wisconsin Badger players on your milk cartons and cottage cheese cartons, and you're going to be absolutely crazy, Greg. The worst things in the world are going to be pushed now. There's going to be cheese on everything because the Badgers are going to try to capitalize on all the cheese money that's out there, and you will get no rest, Greg.
Oh, my God! Anything else, Mr. Ryan Thomas?
Oh, maybe I just overstayed my welcome right there. I can take a hint.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I mean, all I want to say is the card table and the chairs have been brought in. We just need to wait for the governance model, who's the host, to set everything up, and then movement can get started. Anyway, take care, Greg. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Thank you. Okay. One other thing. We're talking governance. We're talking about this breaking news. I do got to bring this up. I keep getting more and more comments to me.
Call from
Nathan Brown.
Nathan Brown, can you hold on a moment?
Of course.
I got another comment.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Everybody, hold on. I got another comment, and I'm not picking on this person. I'm getting a ton of these in the last 48 hours. And this was dropped into my episode 408. I don't even know when I released this, a couple days ago. And it was 10 minutes ago. It was dropped in. I'm getting these messages in my comment section of my episodes, which is great. I read my comments. I thank everybody. I read them, or I read them all. And I'm also been getting a bunch of direct messages, but basically it all ties in with this comment. ACC, this is a person who watched my program, ACC lawsuit update. The grant of rights is void on February 1st, 2025 if ESPN picks up the option. Period. No school is bound to the ACC or ESPN beyond the 2026 football season. Media rights contractually and legally return to the ACC members automatically at this time, not 2036. Okay. Well, does the ACC believe that? Does ESPN believe that? So what people are trying to tell me is if ESPN picks up the option, it's illegal. If they drop the option, no matter what happens, Florida State and Clemson are free to leave the ACC after the 2026 season. This is what I've been getting for 48 hours straight. Now, what in the bleep are people talking about? Why would Florida State get so what are we saying here? Are we saying no matter what ESPN does on February 1st, 2025, no matter what they do, if ESPN drops the option or continues, no matter what happens, that it's over? That Florida State gets to leave with their media rights no later than 2026. Then why are they going to the courts?
Yeah, I agree.
What are we talking about here, guys? Why does this stuff always just percolates and then overwhelms my DMs and my comments? Do people actually believe that you got all these high-priced lawyers going to the court, suing the court, damages, opening themselves up for damages? These universities spending all this money, and it's all window dressing. It doesn't mean anything. In other words, no matter what happens, February 1st is the day. Nothing else matters. Come on. If ESPN decides to go and continue on as is after February 1st, 2025, Florida State might have a complaint. They might file something. They may go to, they may do all this stuff. But people are saying, no, it's over, Greg. It's over. No matter what ESPN decides, it's over. If it was that simple, do you think Florida State and Clemson would be doing all that they're doing? These lawyers. Anyways, I apologize, Nathan Brown. I got another. I'm being over. I don't know where this. I think I got a good idea where all this came from. But come on, guys.
Yeah.
There's no magic potion to this. Now, if ESPN declines the option, then it's going to shrink the gore, and now Florida State's got some running room. So does everybody else. But if they continue. Nah, come on. Anyways, Nathan Brown, go ahead. The floor is yours.
So, great show, as always, Greg.
Yeah.
What I'm getting from this is on the heels of there was a big social media push, Big 12, ACC, all the weeks for the different conferences, had all these little PR things left and right. This feels to me like a concerted, planned PR distribution and program trying to sort of go against all of the media and all the reports that have been coming out recently. It's obvious to me that it's a concerted one because I'm getting the same ones you are. I just haven't been on my show yet to complain about it. So I think what we're looking at is people don't like what they're being presented as options. And so what they're saying is, we're going to do everything we can. We'll put in our own PR campaign to stop this, to try to convince people other things. I'm with you. I'm a common sense guy. That makes zero sense if that was really what was going to happen. If that's really what was going to happen, Florida State wouldn't have sued to go out. Clemson never would have filed a lawsuit.
No, Clemson wouldn't have done anything. No.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
It's bizarre. There's always a new magic potion every couple weeks that comes out. I really don't know where all this is coming from. I got to tell you guys, Florida State and Clemson are battling in the courts because that's what they believe they need to do to get leverage. And I think they're being successful at some level. And they want that whole ACC conference to bust open because that gives them a better opportunity to get to the P2. That's what's going on. That's the battle. Back and forth, back and forth. They both have some leverage. ACC's trying to draw this out. They're trying to keep their conference intact. Florida State and Clemson may get a lifeline. They may be able to sign a big old check over to get out. Or Florida State and Clemson might get a victory in the courts where everybody busts out. That's Florida State's Clemson's number one goal. But then again, other people believe the ACC has the tools and the methods to draw this out over the next couple of years. That's what the Florida State Money Perch believes and other people at Florida State. But this whole magic potion thing where the courts, what's going on in the courts means absolutely nothing. That magic potion thinking is, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's got to make some sense, right? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And you and I aren't lawyers.
Nope.
To be very clear. We're taking other people's reports, analyzing them, and then putting a bit of distribution to it. But at the end of the day, all these reports are coming from valid people. All the ones that the Big 12 reports, the ACC reports, all those were coming from actual contacts. I have not been able to track back one of these messages to an official posting from somebody. I have no idea if this is a big collective of lawyers that have gotten together and filed something, or there has to be something official behind it. Otherwise, to me, Greg, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to report on it. I'm not going to do anything on it until I see something come out from an actual source.
Yeah. All right, so what are you calling on the governance or?
Yeah, I'm just calling back on that 300-page settlement document,
Yeah.
and it's leaking out different things, the different sections. It's going to take a long time to work through the whole thing. I doubt that happens tonight. But the one you were talking about before, about the NILs, it's just ridiculous. Like, now we're building a whole nother level of governance and on top of what's already existing, just to manage NIL deals that honestly should just go to legal review. Why did they add all these other layers? That's the piece I don't understand.
I don't think they're adding a layer. They're eliminating the NCAA layer.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but they're making another one.
Yeah, but it's run by the court. But it's run by a special master. It's run by a neutral arbiter, and it's going to be a 40-day process within 45 days. I'm willing to give it a chance, baby. Come on, Nathan.
I'm not against it.
I'm being naive. I get it.
No, look, all I'm trying to do is just bring attention to the fact that there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Yeah.
This thing came out and was signed today, so now we know a lot more details. But I would just tell everybody to take a wait-and-see attitude until the people that really know what they're doing, the Mitch Winters, the Doug Rohans, and others, dive into that thing and really tell us what's in the middle of it. Because I think right now we're just looking at window dressing, the things that are high priority.
Yeah. We're just getting the first reports. When you guys do your show tonight, you're gonna know a lot more than what I know here. So check out.
We'll see.
Go check out College Football Mafia show with Nathan Brown. They'll know more than what we're talking about. We're just hitting it live and see what we can come up with.
Thank you, Greg. Have a great night. Tell your wife's on vacation, so you're a bachelor. We're gonna have to get together.
She's on vacation, and then when she comes back, we're going on vacation. So
yay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good weekend.
You got it. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Now, we're going to go into, okay, behold the new NCAA sport by sport roster limits. These are roster limits. Roster limits. Okay? Roster limits. Which is different than scholarship limits. Roster limits. Aerobatic and tumbling women's 55. Baseball 34. And we know the scholarship limit is 34. Which is up from what, 12 and a half or something like that? 12 and a third scholarships. Now it's 34 scholarships. Roster limit 34. Basketball men's 15. Basketball women's 15. Beach volleyball 19. Bowling women's 11. Cross country men's 17. Cross country women's 17. I'm not going to go through all these. Football 105. Golf 9 for men's and women's. Gymnastics women 20. Men's and women's ice hockey 26. Indoor track and field, men's and women 45. Men's lacrosse 48, women's lacrosse 38. Soccer, men's and women 28 each. Softball 25.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I've
caught part of the show, so I won't go into a lot of stuff because there's probably like half an hour or so that I didn't get to see yet. But there's one thing that I don't know that you're wrong, but I have a different take on with the student athletes and selling their rights to the schools as the likely outcome.
Okay.
I don't really believe that's the case. This is a bad analogy, but I'll give you an example. I was in a big company that had different business units, right? And the center part of the company that works across all the different business units that in certain ways would compete against each other. When they came with the deal, I wanted to know what that deal was, and I wanted a part of it for my division, right?
Yeah.
But if I had an opportunity for my own deal, I didn't go back and share that with anybody, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't the way it works. And that same thing kind of works in the NFL. Like all these players have their agents trying to find deals and sponsorships for them.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean a school, a company doesn't go to the Dolphins with a deal to do an overall sponsorship part. And then because of that deal, they don't then go to X amount of players to fulfill that with an opportunity that they talk to their agents for to make sure that that deal can be realized, as opposed to just the Dolphins thing where they send their cheerleaders out instead of, a free safety. So maybe for some of the lesser players, the back end of a roster, the people who are, in scholarship slot 86 to 105, but all these agents are going to be out there saying that I am the only one who has your best interest. You want me being the one advocate for you on your team, or the other three players I might represent, not one central entity that's trying to figure out how to take care of not just the 105 football players, but potentially the diving team or the golf players. So I don't, when we see more, maybe it changes, but I don't really think that's how it's going to all shake out.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah. You're either on to something or you're on something, but I'm guessing you're on to something, Rock and Rant.
Yeah, it doesn't play that way in any other agent-represented field.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be safer for some of them, right? But it's just, and there might be some shady entities. The only thing I think will happen for sure is that they're going to have to go through the clearinghouse, so they're not going to be able to be sold a bill of goods, and any of these third-party entities will have to have something for real. They might have to work harder to actually do it, which might limit their money because they're only going to have so much time to actually make deals that work, as opposed to one appearance and they get a check for $100,000.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely see how it's all going to play out. But I just wanted to comment on all that. I haven't read the full agreement to like really counter or have another take on
No,
everything.
yeah, you make a good point. You make a good point. Maybe maybe it's going to be one of those things, Rocket Rant, where a high, a 5-star, 4-star football player probably isn't going to sign over the NIL rights right away, right? To the athletic department, but maybe most of these football players may do it. Maybe it's something like that, but
yeah, there might be some like Mason-Dixon line where people are above or below. To use the or the Mendoza line in baseball batting averages. That happens, but it's actually probably not the best financial decision to like have somebody representing 105 of your fellow players versus just you.
Yeah. All right, sir.
I think they'll double dip.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Rock and Rant.
Welcome.
Helmer Hennison, does this limit Phil Knight's influence? I don't know. Again, it's maybe not. It all depends on whether those type of deals that these outside collectors, if they can move big time deals through the clearinghouse, then it won't. But again, supposedly you can't really outsize the value, your true value. However, the special master determines the true value of a person in the NIL market. I don't know, guys and gals. I do not know. It could limit the influence of these big collectives. It could. It has a better chance probably in this world that they're creating versus what we've been through. But I don't know. I see some. Thank you for the super chat, Helmer Hennison. All the 34 baseball scholarships are all full scholarships. 34 of them. I know somebody asked that in the chat. It's 34 now. Of course, you don't have to go up to 34 scholarships, right? Are all the SEC baseball programs, are they all going to go 34 scholarships on their baseball rosters? I don't know. Are they? I mean, that's a lot of money. You're going from 12 and a half to whatever it is, 12 and a third, 12 and a quarter, to 34 full scholarships. Is Vanderbilt might just do it. And then what type of money are they going to use? It's going to be crazy. Every athletic department, the way they use their money is going to be different from one another. I'll give you a Minnesota example. It has been women's and men's hockey, 18 scholarships. Well, now it's up to 26. The men's and women's hockey programs at the University of Minnesota, maybe not at Ohio State, maybe not at Michigan State, but at Minnesota, they're going to go up to 26. It's just the way it is. And, that's money. That's money that's not going elsewhere. All these athletic departments, their decisions. Antoine Codes, over 90% of the great athletes are not marketable. I don't know about I would say, in my opinion, over 90% of those student athletes going to even the power conferences aren't really all that marketable. Some are, right? The high recruited players are going to be more marketable. But most of them, not really. But a lot of them have been getting paid money, outside of the name, image, and likeness true value. And supposedly that's going to get, those type of deals are not going to go to the clearinghouse. It's going to be a fascinating story to watch. It really is. It's there won't be walk-ons. Yep. There will not be walk-ons. 105 will expand the good teams' talent over the not-so-good teams. Okay, but you know what? Only so many players can play. There's going to be more players going in the transfer portal. I mean, really, there is a law of diminishing returns when it comes to football rosters. You've already got players jumping in the portal. Tyler Williams from Georgia, high 4-star, great athlete, wide receiver, goes to Georgia, plays a couple of games. They're absolutely stacked. He goes in the portal after his true freshman season, and Minnesota picks him up. That is happening throughout college football. These big time players, there's still only so much playing time. So while, yes, if Alabama and Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Tennessee and Georgia, if they decide to go from 85 scholarships to 105, you know what? That's probably going to have pretty much the other 90% of the football programs, their star ratings are going to go lower a little bit because they're going to lose out on some of those players. But then the portal is going to be even more active. Because a lot of those guys are going to be like, I want to play. Some schools consolidate before deep, but again, guys want to play, so they go in the portal. There's a law of diminishing returns on that. Bad news for hockey schools. University of Denver does not play football. The football millions can be spread among hockey, basketball, lacrosse. I don't think University of Denver is going to have the millions to spend. They're not going to have a $22 million revenue cap. They're not going to spend up to 22. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's the great unknown, right? But the Denver Pioneers, we'll see. We'll see what happens. No partials, no walk-ons. Absolutely correct, Clay. Thank you for the super chat, your generosity, Antoine Codes. You can see if there's any more news on this. Again, breaking news today. NCAA formally files settlement documents that outlines its plans for paying former athletes, sharing revenue with current athletes, in eliminating scholar limits. If you're new to the program, or if you haven't done so, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends, but make sure you subscribe and have those notifications turned on, because we could come on live at any time over the weekend, anytime Monday through Friday in the morning and at noon at night. And Mitt Winter, who's been advocating for collective bargaining agreement, players becoming employees, which I've been saying since episode number 1 of this YouTube channel, midwinter. I'm amazed people actually thought this House settlement agreement, as drafted, would bring stability to college athletics. It's just an attempt at continuing to unlawfully limit athlete compensation and rights without athlete representation. So Midwinter believes that this is just going to be a house of cards that fall on into itself. The little general is giving me a call. She can't pick it up, honey. Sorry, we're running a live show. I do understand it's very advocacy every time this is all basically what he talks about. No question about it. No question about it. All right, I think we're going to close up this live show. We've been on the air for over an hour and 40 minutes. I want to thank everybody for the donation, for the great comments in the comment section, and the phone calls. We're going to drop it here. Breaking news. House settlement, long form, all been filed in the state of California. We'll see more and more reports of this. We're going to get more and more detail. Stay with us here at Peek Around the Corner as we follow this story and everything else. Camp has started. Florida State, the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech, they are in camp. Football camp has begun. Football, and I cannot wait. It's going to be an exciting season in 2024. We've made our predictions here at Peek Around the Corner. We've got Georgia defeating Oregon in the national championship game. What do you got? Let me know on the next live show. We're going to be putting on live shows tomorrow and Sunday over the weekend. Peek Around the Corner. So stick with us. Hit the subscribe button. Open up those notifications. We can come on live at any time. The landscape keeps changing over and over and over again in college football. So stick with us. And I hope you enjoy your weekend, and I hope you spend some of it with us here at Peek Around the Corner. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.